Hello everybody. A little embarrassing. The yard's a big mess. It's been really hot. But we're here to talk about this Juniperus sabina blue form. When I first moved here to this place, this guy was a large shrub. So it was a basically 6-foot high cube, if you will. The gardeners had cut it basically into a cube. Fairly skinny. Here, if I walk around, you could see it's not terribly, well, it's fat now, but before it would have been cut in that way. But anyways, I pruned this into a bonsai because I was like, it was in the way of this path, which it still is, but now it's less in the way. But let's talk about Juniperus sabina. This guy kind of actually, before I talk about it, the pruning of this kind of reminds me of another conifer, the Monterey cypress. But anyhow, this is normally not a tree like this. I'm pointing out it's normally not a tree, usually a big shrub. But you can bonsai it and train it into a tree. So this is a conifer. Typically, Juniperus sabina would have a more green leaf, and sometimes there's even varieties that are gold. But this is a silver cultivar. I don't know which variety it is, but it's definitely a silver one. It doesn't have any cones on it or berries. They're not technically berries because a juniper is a gymnosperm, which means it doesn't have fruit. It's a cone-bearing plant, like a pine tree. But this guy doesn't really produce, or gal, or both, doesn't really produce much berries. I've seen the green ones, and they produce much more fruit than this one, which can be decorative. And the juniper fruit can be used to flavor things like meats, make things like gin. The alcoholic drink gin is flavored with juniper berries. Juniper berries are used in cooking. They're pretty pungent. They do have their uses. They could be antimicrobial. I've heard things about that. They are fairly slow growing. Their bark is shredding. You don't usually see the bark again. This would have been a big shrub. Fairly brittle wood, I would say. Not really a strong thing, so it's not going to grow like a tree. So even though this one, it looks like a little tree, again, these are going to be most like shrubs. This plant probably is 30-40 years old. Who knows? I love to prune up Juniperus sabina, especially when I get to a house and there's this big giant shrubby block and I can just like carve into it and turn it into something else. Great little plant. Again, makes good bonsai in the high desert. Totally hardy, full sun. Look at these little leaves, perfect drought tolerant stuff. Very drought tolerant, but it would still need a deep soaking maybe once a week in the summer. Not too much in the winter unless the rains fail. Wind tolerant. Again, good to prune. You could turn this into a box or a ball if you wanted to. It's a good plant all around. Easy to propagate. You would do this by cuttings. And it's very tolerant to a wide type of soil. I could tolerate alkaline soils and acidic soils, sandy, clay. I've pretty much seen them do all sorts of stuff. Now there's many cultivars, which are different varieties, whether they're naturally occurring or man-made. There's this silver one. Most of them are green and shrubby. There's low-growing green. There's low-growing silver. There's even gold varieties. I've seen varieties that are gold and low-growing golden varieties. There's also hybrids of this and other species of juniper that come in varieties of shapes. They can be tall and narrow or large and shrubby. So a very variable plant, but it always has these scale-like leaves. If I can zoom in, you can see those very small scale-like leaves. And it would have a juniper berry cone, which is a fleshy cone. And unfortunately, I don't have one here. I might visit a different cultivar in a bit and get a cone for you. And those would be some distinguishing features. Other than that, they might be pretty tough. There's a lot of juniper species that might look similar to this. There's Procumbens nana, which is probably the closest one, the Chinese juniper. There's also Scorpulosum or Scorporiolum. I might be saying that wrong. And other species, Communis, native to North America, that look relatively similar, but are different botanically. But they all serve that function. Very cold hardy here in Southern California. Can't find pretty much anywhere Too cold for it, probably cold to below zero. Pretty heat tolerant. This one's on the south side of a wall, taking full heat here, and I'm in sunset zone 24. I'm USDA zone probably a 10 because we can grow plumerias and all that good stuff. We don't get much frost. I'm in the city of Orange, California. Unfortunately, when they're going to do probably a redo of this house, they're probably going to take this guy out or break him out. So it is kind of a sad thing. They are very brittle and they don't really grow back well from cuts. The cuts higher up, yes, but I've noticed the lower down you've cut on this, the older the wood, it doesn't actually sprout really well. Now, there are always exceptions. Other cultivars do better, but this particular guy here is like that. Great for bonsai, great for a small, making maybe like an interesting small tree like this.